So you open your phone to check the runtime of the movie Oppenheimer.
Which is 3 hours, by the way.
Right, 3 hours. And it should be a clean, simple, like 5-second transaction of information.
Yeah, that's the goal.
But somehow, 45 minutes later, you are definitely not looking at Cillian Murphy's cheekbones anymore.
No, you're a million miles away from that.
Exactly. You have completely abandoned your original mission, and you find yourself just deeply emotionally invested in a video about a guy in Kentucky explaining why his sourdough starter, whose name is Courtney, has actual feelings.
Courtney the sourdough starter. Yeah, we've all been there.
Right, but how did you actually get there? I mean, you got there because a machine operating on this level of math that you can't even see decided that Courtney the emotional yeast is exactly what your subconscious wanted in that moment.
And the crazy part is that no one at the tech company engineered that specific outcome, like at all.
Right, there's no guy in a control room pulling levers.
Exactly. The engineers who built the platform, they have literally no idea who Courtney is. They didn't program a rule that says, you know, if a user searches for Christopher Nolan movies, make sure to show them Kentucky Bacon content.
So we're dealing with a system that operates completely outside of human logic. And for this deep dive, we are unpacking the invisible architecture that's actually curating your internet feed.
Yeah, because if we really want to understand how we end up in these bizarre internet rabbit holes, we have to look at the mechanics of the algorithm itself.
Right, and we're going to cover 3 specific things today. First, how the algorithm actually decides what shows up in your feed. Second, why this inherently dumb system feels like it's psychic.
Which it really isn't.
Not even a little bit. And third, we'll give you 3 actionable steps you can take to reclaim your feed and, feel like a normal person again.
I think the best place to start, though, is by tearing down the most common misconception people have about the software they use every single day.
Oh, the myth of the attentive librarian.
Yes. Most of us operate under this total illusion of the attentive librarian.
It's this idea that there is a slightly nerdy, highly intelligent AI that's thoughtfully curating content based on our stated interests. Like, we assume the system sees that we checked out a book on history last week, right?
Right.
So it gently taps us on the shoulder with a beautifully shot, thought-provoking documentary about the Roman Empire. We treat the algorithm like it has taste.
Which is hilarious because these systems, even though they literally cost billions of dollars to develop, are structurally completely agnostic to quality or taste or your personal values.
They don't care about your values.
Not at all. They operate on a single, absolutely ruthless metric, which is engagement optimization.
But wait, if they are so heavily funded and brilliantly engineered, what are they actually optimizing for, if not my stated preferences? Like, I explicitly tell the app I like documentaries. I literally bookmark them.
Yeah, but the machine doesn't care what you claim to like. It only measures what actually makes you stay.
Yeah.
It is purely a retention engine. It just calculates whether your eyeballs remain on the screen or if you close the app in the next 15 seconds.
So it's not listening to what I say, it's just watching what I do.
Exactly. The whole technical architecture is designed to monitor your behavioral output, not your aspirational input.
Okay, let's ground this in a real scenario so we can see how ridiculous this is. So, I tell my friends I want to watch hard-hitting journalism. I rate those kinds of videos highly.
You give them 5 stars.
Right, 5 stars. But then late at night, when I'm exhausted, I actually sit there and watch like 20 consecutive videos of raccoons stealing shiny objects from people's open garages.
And the algorithm processes that late-night viewing session as a massive statistical endorsement of raccoon theft.
Just a huge win for raccoons everywhere.
Pretty much. It completely ignores the 5-star rating you gave that documentary, the one you only watched for 3 minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
And it heavily weighs the 45 minutes you just spent watching the raccoons.
It doesn't care about the quality.
No, it doesn't ask if the content enriched your life. It only asks if the content prevented you from logging off.
Which brings up, honestly, the most bizarre part of this whole mechanism. The algorithm doesn't actually know what a raccoon is, does it?
No.
Like, it has no concept of a documentary or a sourdough starter or a garage.
None whatsoever. It's totally blind to the content. Think of the algorithm like a blindfolded chef working in a massive, massive kitchen.
Okay, a blindfolded chef.
Yeah. The chef has no sense of taste, no sense of smell, and literally no idea what a cake or a steak even is. All the chef knows is that every single time they combine ingredient A with ingredient B, The person eating it stays in the restaurant for an extra 10 minutes.
Wow. So it is just pure behavioral conditioning without any comprehension of the actual food they're serving.
Exactly.
So if it's completely blind to the actual content of the videos, how is it deciding what to serve me next? Like, how does it map out those ingredients?
It does it through a mechanism called collaborative filtering, which operates in this wildly high-dimensional vector space.
Okay, you're going to have to unpack high-dimensional vector space for me.
Sure, yeah. Basically, instead of analyzing the video itself, the system turns every user and every piece of content into a dot on an unimaginably massive, invisible graph.
Just dots on a graph.
Just dots. And it maps proximity. It notices that out of 1 billion users, the cluster of dots who watched video A, video B, and video C almost always drifted over and watched video D.
Oh, I see. So it's just mapping pathways. It's saying A plus B plus C equals a very high probability of D.
Right. It basically creates a topographical map of human attention. If you watch A, B, and C, the proximity engine just slides D right in front of you.
Even though it has no idea what those videos are.
Right. It doesn't know that A, B, and C were about baking, and D is about emotional support yeast. It just knows that mathematical pathway has like a 94% retention rate.
It's essentially a very confident stranger coming up to you in a bar and saying, hey, trust me, you'll love this. But they are armed with the statistical backing of 3 billion people's clicking habits.
Yeah, and that massive statistical backing is exactly why the blindfolded chef rarely misses. It isn't reading your mind. It's reading the minds of millions of other people who behaved slightly like you 5 minutes ago.
And it's placing a bet.
A highly calculated bet that you will fall into the exact same pattern.
Okay, but if this system is just blindly matching dots on a graph without knowing who I am or what the videos are about, why does it feel so incredibly personal?
Because it does, right?
It really does. There are moments where my feed feels like it's literally watching me sleep. It feels invasive. So if it doesn't know me, what on earth is it actually tracking to build that dot on the graph?
It's tracking what we call micro-behaviors.
Micro-behavior.
Yeah, the system is measuring actions you take when you think you aren't doing anything at all.
See, I assumed it was just looking at my search history and, the videos I actually tap on.
Well, that's just the very top layer. The real predictive power, the stuff that feels like magic, comes from subconscious signals. The algorithm measures exactly how many milliseconds you hover your thumb over a video thumbnail before you keep scrolling.
Right, wait. It's registering a half-second pause as a data point?
Oh, absolutely. A pause indicates hesitation, and hesitation indicates latent interest.
That is wild.
It tracks the exact speed of your scrolling, and it measures the decay, like when your scrolling starts to slow down. It monitors if you turn the volume up slightly on a specific type of video.
Just a slight volume adjustment.
Yep. It logs if you rewatch the first 3 seconds of a clip before scrolling past it. It knows if you open the comment section and read for 2 minutes, even if your keyboard never opens and you never leave a comment yourself.
So me opening the app at 2 a.m. specifically to look at things that give me existential dread, it's basically taking notes on the exact tempo of my doom scrolling.
Every single subconscious twitch, pause, and volume adjustment is fed straight into the matrix. And when you multiply thousands of those tiny invisible signals across billions of users, incredibly dense behavioral profiles emerge.
Patterns that we wouldn't even notice.
Exactly. Patterns that are totally invisible to human psychology, but are glaringly obvious to a machine learning model.
There is almost a digital sovereign citizen argument to be made here.
Oh yeah, how so?
That legal phenomenon where people try to claim they aren't subject to the laws of the land because they never officially signed a contract with the government?
Right, yeah.
I feel like I should be able to walk into a courtroom and say, Your Honor, the algorithm has no jurisdiction over my feed because I did not consent to being psychologically profiled based on the speed of my thumb.
It's a fun argument, but the problem with that defense is that the algorithm doesn't actually need your conscious consent.
Because it's not reading my mind.
Because it isn't actually profiling you, it is profiling your statistical shadow.
A statistical shadow? Man, that sounds like something straight out of a cyberpunk novel. What is that, mathematically speaking?
It's basically a proxy entity. It's a data double built entirely out of those unguarded micro-behaviors we just talked about.
Okay.
It's this massive matrix of weights and probabilities that represents your baseline impulses. And honestly, what is deeply uncomfortable for most people to accept is that this statistical shadow is usually a much more accurate reflection of our actual desires than the version of ourselves we maintain in our heads.
Wow, that is brutal. But it completely explains the disconnect. Because human self-image is almost entirely aspirational, right?
Exactly.
Like I walk around telling myself I'm a thoughtful person, I care about macroeconomic policy and independent cinema, but the algorithm just cuts right through the self-mythology.
It really does. It sees the statistical shadow re-watching a video of a guy falling off a ladder for the 4th time.
So the machine just strips away the ego.
Totally. It models who you are on your absolute worst day. It knows who you are when you have the flu, you haven't slept, your impulse control is completely depleted, and you just want a quick dopamine hit.
It's a mirror that reflects the absolute lowest common denominator of my attention span.
But it's a mirror without a conscience.
Right.
It doesn't judge you for hovering over the ladder video.
Yeah.
It has no concept of morality or societal value. It just serves the probability curve.
It's just doing the math.
Yeah. If your statistical shadow demonstrates a high retention probability for ladder accidents, the proximity engine will bend the fabric of the internet to bring you more gravity-challenged content.
Okay, so if this statistical shadow is constantly pulling the strings behind the scenes, and the system is just relentlessly feeding my worst impulses back to me, am I just doomed?
Doomed to a life of raccoon videos and sourdough starters.
Yeah. Like, how do I actually fight back against a machine that processes billions of data points a second? Because just put down your phone isn't practical advice for anyone living in the modern world. We need to know how to actually exploit the architecture.
Well, the good news is we can manipulate the data inputs.
Okay, I'm listening.
Because the algorithm relies entirely on your behavioral signals to build its model, you can purposefully feed it signals that completely break its predictive sequences. And there are 3 specific ways to do this, depending on how corrupted your feed has become.
Let's start with the easiest one. Step 1. If I just want to slowly starve the algorithm of my bad habits, what is the lowest effort move I can make?
It's surprisingly analog, actually. You watch the single video, you open the app to watch, you finish it, and then you immediately hard close the application before the next piece of content autoplays.
Wait, really? But wouldn't the algorithm just interpret a sudden exit as a negative signal? Like, wouldn't it think I hated the app because I left so fast?
You might think so, yeah. But mathematically, you are denying the system the one thing it desperately needs to map your statistical shadow.
Which is what?
The engagement loop.
The loop being the endless scroll.
Yes. The system builds its deep predictive profiles based on your wandering attention, how you bounce from topic A to topic B to topic C.
Ah, I see.
When you search for a specific video, watch it, and close the app, you generate a highly bounded, closed-loop data point. User searched, user consumed, user exited.
So it gets nothing else.
Exactly. It completely starves the proximity engine of the microbehaviors it needs to calculate your next dopamine hit. You are basically training the algorithm that you are a sniper, not a browser.
I love that. A sniper, not a browser. But the platforms employ like the smartest behavioral designers on earth specifically to stop you from doing that.
Oh, for sure.
The frictionless scroll is designed to make closing the app feel physically difficult. So if I fail at being a sniper and I inevitably end up scrolling into weird territory, what is step 2? What's the active defense?
You have to start injecting heavy negative weights into your data matrix using the not interested or don't recommend buttons.
I have to admit, I almost never use those. If I see a bad recommendation, I just quickly flick my thumb and scroll past it as fast as I can. Doesn't the algorithm see me speeding past a video and realize I don't like it?
Not at all. In most predictive models, a fast scroll is actually treated mathematically as neutral.
Neutral. Even if I scroll past it instantly.
Yes, because the system can't confidently deduce your intent from a quick scroll. You might be distracted, or you might be looking for a very specific creator.
Or I just like flicking the screen.
Right. You might just enjoy the tactile sensation of scrolling fast. So the algorithm doesn't penalize the video's underlying data tag just because you ignored it. It just waits to see what you actually stop on.
Wow. So scrolling is just passive noise to the machine, but the not interested button actually changes the math.
It is a massive, unambiguous negative signal. The algorithm's optimization models absolutely hate negative explicit feedback.
So it's like a shock to the system.
Exactly. When you actively click that button, you are forcing the system to immediately recalibrate the vector space around your statistical shadow. It injects a hard algorithmic penalty against whatever behavioral cluster that video belonged to.
That is so interesting because people treat those buttons like they are just cosmetic, like the closed doors button on an elevator that doesn't actually do anything. It just gives you the illusion of control.
Oh, I know. But they are directly wired into the proximity engine. They are one of the strongest behavioral modifiers you can use, short of reporting a video for a terms of service violation.
Which forces the blindfolded chef to just throw out that specific ingredient combination.
Right, in the trash. But it requires active effort, which is exactly why the vast majority of users just default to the passive neutral scroll.
Okay, but let's say the situation is dire. Let's say I fell asleep with my phone unlocked, the autoplay feature took over for 6 hours, and now my vector space is completely and irreparably corrupted.
A total disaster.
Yeah, the algorithm firmly believes I am a diehard enthusiast of competitive extreme ironing. What is step 3? What's the nuclear option?
The nuclear option is you wipe the matrix entirely.
Just burn it down.
Burn it to the ground.
Okay.
You go deeply into your account settings, you clear your entire watch history, you clear your search history, and you force the proximity engine to drop your dot completely off the map and start from zero.
The psychological barrier to doing that is huge, though. People are terrified of hitting that button.
They really are.
They feel like they've spent years training their feed, and they don't want to lose the good recommendations. They don't want to lose the thoughtful documentaries.
But here's the thing. If your feed is consistently draining you, or it's hijacking your attention with content you actively dislike, that training is exactly what is harming you. The statistical shadow has just become way too heavily weighted toward your worst impulses.
So trying to fix it manually by clicking not interested 1,000 times is just mathematically inefficient at that point.
It is. It takes immense computational time for your current octave choices to outweigh years of passive, late-night micro-behaviors.
That makes sense.
Nuking the profile from orbit and returning to a completely blank state is just much faster. You become a ghost to the machine, and you get to start building a new shadow, but this time with intentionality.
So if we pull all of this together, zooming out from the vector spaces and the micro behaviors, there is a core meta-truth here about our relationship with this technology. And the overarching reality is that the algorithm isn't actually a genius.
It really isn't. Not at all. It is just remarkably, relentlessly persistent. Every single time you open a feed, you are interacting with the result of 100 billion automated experiments on human attention, fine-tuned to figure out exactly what colors, shapes, and concepts keep your specific thumb from swiping.
It's not a supercomputer outsmarting me, it's just a slot machine outlasting me.
That's a great way to put it. The machine doesn't need to be intelligent, it just needs infinite patience.
And realizing that is incredibly empowering, honestly, because since it is just a matter of endurance and data inputs, you have the mechanical ability to change the dynamic.
You really do.
Just by breaking the predictive sequence with a hard close, or injecting negative weights with the feedback buttons, or just wiping the matrix entirely, you can outlast the outlaster as long as you understand how the math actually works.
Which leaves us with one final, much broader implication to consider.
Oh, right.
We've established that these global networks are perfectly mapping our unguarded, unconscious micro-behaviors. They are explicitly designed to optimize for our worst-day statistical shadows, entirely ignoring our aspirational selves.
Right, they reward the raccoon videos, and they just bury the thoughtful documentaries purely based on retention metrics.
So the question is, what happens to human culture at large when the artists, the journalists, and the filmmakers fully internalize this math? What happens when human creators realize that the proximity engine only rewards the shadow?
Wow. They stop trying to make art that appeals to the thoughtful, aspirational people we are trying to become.
Exactly, and instead they start designing all of their work specifically to trigger the baseline worst-day micro-behaviors of our statistical shadows. The machine trains us, but eventually it trains the creators too.
If the math only rewards the shadow, eventually the culture just becomes the shadow.
Precisely.
That is definitely something to chew on the next time you log on, just to check a movie runtime, and, inevitably end up checking in on Courtney, the emotional sourdough starter.
Good old Courtney.
That is all the time we have for today's deep dive. We really hope this gives you a little more clarity and a few more mathematical weapons the next time you open your feed. Until next time, stay curious and keep a close eye on your statistical shadow.